Greetings, my beautiful lovelies. It's Emmy. How are you? It's great to see you and welcome back. Today's video is sponsored by HelloFresh, the food delivery service that brings pre-measured ingredients right to your doorstep so you can make yourself a meal in about 30 minutes. So HelloFresh saves you time by eliminating meal planning and much of the prep work. HelloFresh is flexible. You can change your delivery dates, your meal plans, or even skip a week. HelloFresh can also accommodate larger families with larger box sizes with more servings and more savings. HelloFresh is committed to making fresh and delicious food available more than ever and has taken extra steps to keep their employees and customers safe. So this week, my family really enjoyed the curry spice chickpea bowls. So if you'd like to try HelloFresh for yourself, go to hellofresh.com/Emmymade80 and use my code Emmymade80 to receive $80 off across 5 boxes, including free shipping with your first box. Big thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video and for their continued support. Now today, I'm going to be making an ice cream sandwich, but one that I have never seen or tasted before, and it hails from Singapore. I'm going to be making a Singapore ice cream sandwich. It sounds so simple and so delicious. All it is a brick of ice cream that is surrounded by a slice of bread. It's a sandwich in the most literal form, so I find the simplicity of this sandwich charming. Also, the bread as well. Oftentimes the bread is pink and green. It is flavored with pandan, which is a very popular plant or flavoring that you can find in Southeast Asia in many desserts. It has this beautiful electric green color. Sometimes the bread is just a plain white milk bread. So let's go ahead and make a Singapore ice cream sandwich. First, we're going to have to make our bread. So I'm going to be making an adapted version of my Hokkaido milk bread. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put the link down below. So this recipe uses something called a tangju. My apologies for the mispronunciation if I did so, but it's basically a flour roux. We're going to combine some milk, water, and flour, combine that into a cooked paste. And what that's going to do is add some more moisture or hydrate the dough a bit more so that it lasts longer and it tastes fresher. So in a small saucepan, we're going to include 3 tablespoons of water, 3 tablespoons of milk, and 2 tablespoons of bread flour. Now, before we add any heat, we're going to mix this all together. And now we're going to put the cartridge in our burner. Otherwise, it doesn't make any fire. You see, you need fuel. You need fuel for your fire. Okay. Now we're just going to cook this. See that? That happens very quickly. I just turned off the heat. So to our paste, we're going to add a 1/2 cup of milk, and we're going to add 1 large egg. Beautiful yellow color. Now we can set this aside. So into the bowl of our stand mixer, we're going to combine 2.5 cups of bread flour. Bread flour contains more gluten in it, and it will make for a chewier textured loaf. Now, I remember learning this on Martha Stewart. This is the proper way to fill a measuring cup. You use a scooper. You don't pack it down, and you make sure that it's flush. 1/4 cup of sugar. 1 teaspoon of salt. 1 tablespoon of instant yeast. Add that right in there. 2 tablespoons of milk powder. This is Baker's special dry milk powder, and from what I've read, this is supposed to create a taller loaf. Give that just a little mix. So as this is going, we're going to add our wet ingredients along with 4 tablespoons of melted butter. Whenever using a stand mixer, it's always a great idea to scrape the sides of the bowl. Also, you might have noticed that my butter was not as melted as it was about an hour ago when I melted it, but it's definitely very soft, so I think it's going to be just fine. So we're going to keep, oh, no. It's hard doing this when you can't see. All right, let's go. So once this forms a dough, we're going to knead it on medium speed for 8 minutes. If you don't have a stand mixer, you can still make this recipe. mix everything into a bowl, and then just knead on a smooth surface for probably a little bit longer, more like 10 minutes, 12 minutes, or until the dough is nice and smooth and supple. You'll see it beginning to change. As the gluten starts to form, the dough will just kind of get more elastic and stretchy and smooth. So this dough is very enriched. We've added egg, we've added butter, we've added milk to it, so it's quite sticky. So don't be tempted to add a bunch of flour to it. Just keep kneading it, keep working with it, and as the flour absorbs the moisture, you'll find that it'll get less tacky. A good way to tell if you've kneaded this enough is by doing the window pane test. If you can see through it or light passes through it, then it passes the window pane test. You know that enough gluten has developed that you can move on to the next step. The reason why we want to develop the gluten is that we want it to stretch kind of like a balloon and trap all the CO2 that's going to be created, or carbon dioxide gas created by the yeast, and that's going to give us that beautiful fluffy crumb that we want. So I'm going to take this dough and roughly cut it in half. While I'm working one ball, I'm going to keep this dough covered so it doesn't dry out. I'm going to add some pandan extract. Now pandan has a really unique smell. It's kind of nutty, a little bit vanilla, very kind of a toasted smell and flavor to it, but I think it's absolutely delicious. So it also has this beautiful green color. To this amount of dough, I'm going to add a half teaspoon of extract. Oomph up the color a little bit. I'm going to add just a drop of paste food coloring as well. I'm going to knead this in there just to incorporate that food coloring and extract. There it is. And to the other ball of dough, I'm going to add pink, and I'm not going to add any flavoring to it. I'm just going to have this be a pandan flavored dough. And then we're going to tuck the ends under till it forms a nice round sphere. And then we're going to oil the top surface, place it into an oiled bowl, and let it rest for an hour or an hour and a half, or until your dough doubles. And this will depend on the temperature of your room. Okay, my lovelies, I am back. It's been about an hour and a half and my doughs have doubled. I'm going to butter my loaf pan. So you'll know that these are sufficiently risen and rested when you poke the dough, and it does not spring back. It just leaves a little belly button like that. So I'm going to divide each of these into 2 equal loaves. I'm going to roll this out. I'm going to tuck this in and then tuck this over. Pinch that seam really nicely. And now we're going to roll this out lengthwise. And I'm going to do the same thing with my pink roll here. Fold it over, fold this over, pinch it down. And for this one, I'm going to put the green on the outside. So I'm going to roll this a little wider and place the pink one inside. Now we're just going to roll this up. Pinch, 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 pinch into our pan. And for our second one, I think I'm going to try to put the pink on the outside. Do a tight little roll. And once again, we're going to pinch to seal. Cover that with some plastic wrap and let that rest for about 15 minutes or until it's nice and poofed up. And then we're going to take 1 egg and add 1 tablespoon of water, beat that together, and then very gently brush the outside of our dough, and then bake this at 350 degrees for 25 to 32 minutes or until it's beautiful and golden and poofed up. And then we're going to let it cool before we cut into them. Alrighty, my lovelies, I am back. I am bespectacled. My contacts were drying my eyeballs out, so now I'm wearing glasses, and my beautiful bread is finished. Look how gorgeous this is. I'm so pleased with how this turned out, and look at this beautiful mahogany finish. So beautiful. If you find your bread starts to brown too quickly, you can always lay a sheet of foil on top. So mine baked for exactly 25 minutes or until the internal temperature was 180 degrees. degrees Fahrenheit, and I took it out, let it cool for just a few minutes before taking it out of the pan. I did so when it was still quite hot. Then I let it cool on a rack, and now that it's completely cooled, we can cut into it. Because I have these two swirls, it just begs to be torn apart. Look at these loaves, aren't they stinking adorable? All right, let's finally cut into this bread. Here we go. It's totally green, what? Green and pink here. All right, let's try the next slice. Alrighty, there's our pink. Beautiful. Let's give it a taste by itself. Here we go. Itadakimasu. Mmm. Mmm. It is so lovely. It's light and fluffy and moist and tender and slightly chewy. The pandan flavor is actually quite light. It's there, but it's not very strong. So if you make this recipe, and if you use the same extract that I use, I would say go ahead and add 1 full teaspoon to the green portion of the bread. Mmm. It's so tender. No. Mmm. So good. There's a touch of sweetness to it. It's enriched with butter, milk, egg. So now that we have it, let's make this into an ice cream sandwich. Traditionally what they do is have bricks of different ice cream, and you choose what kind you want, and they'll just saw you off a little piece. But since we don't have those bricks of ice cream here in the US, I made do with a pint, and I just cut it up into rectangles. And I'm going to take a beautiful slice of my bread, beautiful bright orange piece of mango ice cream, and fold this around it. Alrighty, here we go. Itadakimasu. Mmm. Mmm. That is so cool and refreshing, yet comforting and tender and scrum-diddly-umptious. The mango sorbet is so delicious and just packs a huge punch of mango flavor. And then you've got this deliciously light and fluffy and tender bread that surrounds it. It has a slight chew to it and just a beautiful moist crumb. It's scrumptious. The bread is such a wonderful delivery mechanism for this mango sorbet. Your hands not only stay clean, they don't get overly cold, and it's so stinking beautiful. So I made mine with mango sorbet, but I think it would be absolutely outstanding with vanilla ice cream. Vanilla and pandan go so nicely together. Chocolate, red bean, ube, I think all of those would be delicious with this really wonderful, delightful, scrum-diddly-umptious bread. If anything, if you have a little bit of time, I highly recommend making this bread with or without pandan. It's just delicious, absolutely outstanding, and totally worth the effort. Alrighty, my lovelies, thanks so much for joining me, and big thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. If you'd like to try HelloFresh for yourself, head over to hellofresh.com/Emmymade80 and use my code Emmymade80 to receive $80 off across 5 boxes and free shipping with your first box. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope you learned something. Please share this video with your friends. Follow me on social media, like this video, subscribe, and I shall see you in the next one. Toodaloo, take care, bye! Do you like a bird mustache? I've been growing it for all of 30 seconds.